Hey guys, how we doing today? Today we're going to have a nice, relaxing, probably long podcast style video. Just keeping it real. I like these kinds of videos. I miss them because I can just talk about a topic and it's less editing for me and I have a longer watch time usually, but you guys usually watch more of it. And some of you guys really seem to like it. I think I might do a poll where I ask you guys, maybe after I film this video, I'll do a poll about, do you prefer longer videos, like the podcast style videos or the short videos? You can also let me know in the comments on this video. You can tell me which one you prefer. I kind of prefer the longer videos. I definitely prefer the longer videos. And it's great for you guys because you don't even have to watch it. You can just listen. You can just clean your house while you listen to me, or you can drive your car, whatever. That is if you can play YouTube, if you have enough data, or I don't know, if you download this video or something, I don't know. Yeah, then you can play it out in public, but wherever, at your house, doing whatever. The point is, it's good exposure to just real, natural English speaking. Most of you guys say that it's pretty easy to understand me, so it's a great way for you to get exposed to real American English, but also like learn some things like, oh, she said this in this situation. Oh, yeah, I could use that phrase. Yeah. For me, it's very useful just to listen to native speakers talk, as long as I can understand them, right? This is what we call comprehensible input. So as long as you're understanding what they're saying, then you're learning new phrases and stuff. Even if I'm not stopping and explaining everything I say, you yourself can still notice things that I say that maybe you don't say yourself, or you forgot about, or you didn't know about, and you can add it to your vocabulary. You can practice it. You can practice imitating me. You can pause the video and copy me. So there's a lot of ways. There are a lot of ways that you can use these kinds of videos as a very valuable resource for you to improve your English. So anyways, let's get into the topic of today's video. So, this is a bit of a difficult topic to talk about and a little bit controversial. There might be some debating or disagreeing in the comments, but I don't know. I'm going to try to do the best I can to talk about this, but it's kind of like multiple topics, but they're all kind of related. So let's just see where it takes us. So I saw this video. Now I've seen videos kind of like this before in the past, but I recently saw a video on Instagram, which I use occasionally just to see what's going on. And I saw this video where this guy, I don't know where he was from, but I think he was Hispanic American. I think that was pretty evident. And he was using this, I don't know if it was Omegle, but like I've never used it in my life, but this kind of website where you can talk to random people anywhere. And I think you can't choose who you talk to. Like it's just you just get random people who are on the website at that time. It's like going into these random video calls with people and you could talk to random people. So I don't know why that's so hard to describe. I don't even know how to describe that because I've never done it myself. But so it was a video where he was showing clips of different chats that he had, different like video chats that he had with people from the United States. And he was asking them to name 3 countries in America. And the women, whatever, they were like, what? What do you mean America is a country? And everybody in the comments are like, oh, these people from the US, they don't know anything about geography. They don't know crap. They don't learn anything at school, blah, 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 blah. And I've seen these kinds of videos before. The funny thing is I never see these kinds of videos about people from other countries, but I know that there's definitely people in other countries who don't know geography very well or whatever. But the people love to focus on the stereotype of people in the US that they don't really know crap about geography or anything outside the US. And yeah, there is truth in it. But let me explain why this video was misunderstood, I think, by most people. And I need to explain something because I think there's a big miscommunication, misunderstanding going on here. So I wrote down something in response to this, and I want to read it. Well, it was in response to this and also other things, but I just want to read something that I wrote. Okay, so I wrote down that Latin America, and I'm not even really sure if that is the correct term here. It might just be Hispanic America. You know, I'm in Brazil right now, and in Brazil, they just call people from the United States Americanos. Like, they just call us Americans. And for them, it doesn't seem to be an issue. They know that their country, Brazil, is in South America. It doesn't change the fact that they don't have an issue with calling us Americans. But it's crazy to me to hear that here because people in Hispanic America get so worked up. People in Hispanic America seem to get, not everybody, but some people seem to get so worked up about us being called or calling ourselves Americans and the country America. And the truth is that that's already established and it's not going to change. That is just what people call the country and call themselves. So that's not going to change. I've heard like Norte Americanos, which is not even correct either, because like Mexicans are North Americans as well. Like, it's not specific. So that's a weird thing to call people from the US. Because in Spanish, there's a word estadounidense. And so usually they say that. But in Portuguese, in Brazil, they don't really say that. They just say Americano. Like, they just say American. And in English, we don't have the word estadounidense. Like, we don't have a version of that. So all we have is American. So when I say Latin America, I'm not sure. It might just be Hispanic America. But anyways, I wrote, Latin America is the only part of the world where they teach about one continent called America. Okay, so that's what it seems like. It seems like they're teaching, at least in Hispanic America, that there is this one continent called America. In the United States, we were not taught that. We were taught that there are two continents. One is North America and one is South America. So if you ask somebody from the US, name 3 countries in North America or name 3 countries in South America, they should be able to answer that. Now, if they can't answer that, yeah, they're horrible at geography. Then you have a video. Then you have a clickbait. Then you have a good video. But, not clickbait. Then you have a good video. But if you just say 3 countries in America, we were not taught that there is a continent called America, okay? So we were just taught that there are 2. And just because they have the names North America and South America doesn't mean that they are part of one continent. We were taught that they're separate continents. So the only thing that we were taught that is just America is the United States of America. So this is what most people use in the US, and this is what we've heard and been taught our whole lives. So it's not that the education system, it's not that and believe me, I'm not defending for a second conventional education systems in any country. I hate them. I have so many problems with them. But I'm just saying that this is not a good example of the education system being crappy or failing us or whatever. This is not trust me, there are plenty of examples of that. But this is not a good example of it because this is just what is the standard. I mean, you could talk to the most scholarly people in the United States and they're going to refer to the country as America, right? No matter what their level of education is, no matter how smart they are. The only reason that I stopped referring to it as America and started referring to it as the United States is because I lived 7 years in Hispanic America and I just didn't want to cause any problems. Like, I just wanted to keep the peace and not get anybody worked up and ruffle people's feathers. I just wanted to, just relax. So that's the only reason that I stopped calling it America. But that's just what people all over the world do. Okay, so I wrote, so in the US and other parts of the world, so not just in the US, but in other parts of the world, we are taught that North America and South America are separate continents. We are not taught that the names indicate that they are two parts of the same continent, but that they are two separate continents that just have these names. In English, the word estadounidense, like in Spanish, doesn't exist. So American is the correct adjective to refer to someone or something from the US, which is also called America. The fact that these terms are used does not negate the existence of the American continents. Okay, so the fact that the United States is called America and people refer to themselves as American does not erase or negate the fact that there is North America and South America. You know, if you ask anybody in the United States who is not a complete idiot about North America and South America, they know about that and they accept that. And we never got confused about that. And if you go to Europe, Asia, Africa, etc., and say you are American or from America, they will automatically think United States. I went to Southeast Asia for 8 months, and they would ask me where I'm from. And if I just said United States, they sometimes didn't understand what I was saying. But if I said America, they knew immediately. When I said America, they never for a second thought that I was referring to the American continent or anywhere else in North or South America. They thought America, they thought of the specific United States of America country, okay? Generally, if you tell somebody in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in Australia, I'm assuming, I think so. I mean, from my experience of meeting people from different parts of the world and whatnot, I get the impression that if you say, I'm American, that's what they're going to think. They're going to think United States. They're not going to think anything else. It's only in Hispanic America or maybe Latin America. I'm not sure yet. I just got to Brazil. I haven't spent a lot of time in Brazil yet, but it's only here in in the other parts of the Americas where if you say I'm from America, people are going to be like, what? Yeah. Okay, it's fine. Like if you're here and you're socially conscious and you want to learn the language and you want to, like, it's fine. You know, foreigners can do what I did and they can adapt and they can say, you know, I'm from the US or whatever. But the point is that most of the world is not really concerned with this. It's just like some random Hispanic Americans that get all worked up about it. I also wrote, most people just identify with their country of origin, not the continent, when introducing themselves. So someone from Colombia would just say they're Colombian. They wouldn't say, hi, nice to meet you. I'm American or I'm South American. Long story short, people need to relax about this topic. Okay, so I don't know. That's just what I wrote in the moment. That's what I was thinking. But yeah, I basically explained it all. So yeah, you can't be surprised when you ask somebody, name 3 countries in America, and they're like, what? If you literally look it up on the internet, I looked it up. And I looked up how many continents are there and what are all the names of the continents, even though I already knew, but just to confirm, just to see what the internet says. And I asked ChatGPT as well, and it said that technically, yes, the continents are North America and South America. But in Hispanic America or in Latin America, it's often taught that it's one continent. So what's going on here is that there's just a different way of teaching or a different geographical understanding. I would like to see videos where they ask the same question to people in China, in Russia, in like random other places. I would like to see in India. I would like to see what would be their answers if they were asked to name 3 countries in America. I would like to see what they say. And if they say countries in the Americas, right? If I want to refer to both continents, I'm going to say the Americas with an S, the Americas. And yeah, if you ask some random person in the United States about the Americas, they might be a little confused just because it's not a super common term that we use a lot. But if you explain it to them, like, yeah, North and South America, the Americas, they'd be like, oh, okay. So I would like to see if somebody, a random person from India, China, Russia, whatever, anywhere, would respond to that question with 3 countries in the Americas, or they would also be like, what do you mean America is a country? So yeah, I would like to know. And until I see videos like that, I think people are just desperately trying to make these videos where they try to expose people in the US for not knowing geography. Because also, if you look at the videos where they ask people on the street, they ask random people on the street, or they ask random people questions, you don't know how many people they asked before they asked those people in the video. Like, they might have asked 100 people, and you're only seeing 5 of those conversations. So you got to remember that when you see those videos where they expose like random dumb people on the street, or people that just lack information, or whatever you want to call it, you need to understand that those clips are cherry picked. Those are selected. They show the worst ones, right? They're not going to show you the normal ones or the successful ones or whatever. They're going to show you the worst ones. And you could do that for any country. You could ask people. I've seen videos like in Mexico where they ask like old people, if they ask these old men, not old men, but like middle-aged and older, they ask them if they are heterosexual. And they're like, nope, because they don't know what heterosexual means. They ask them in Spanish. And yeah, they don't understand what heterosexual means. So they're just like, no. Obviously, it's not like most older men in Mexico don't know what that word means. No, they select, the worst or like the dumbest people, to show in the videos because that's entertaining. And when you need to understand that when you're using these platforms like social media, the most ridiculous, cringy, stupid, entertaining, funny, absurd clips are the ones that get selected to be featured in videos. So that's why you're seeing like sometimes some of the worst cases when they ask people questions. But it's a minority, maybe. It's a small percentage. Maybe not in some cases, but I think in a lot of cases it is a small percentage of like the entire population. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like these kinds of videos which lead to stereotypes about entire countries and just huge, massive amounts of people. I mean, these countries are made up of hundreds of millions of people. I mean, if we're talking about like the United States or even Mexico, just millions and millions of people, so many people. People often stereotype people in the US as like, oh, they never learn another language. And so they're like, oh, wow, you're a gringa who knows another language. It's like, please don't put that stereotype on me. There are 340 million of us. Stop. I've met tons of gringos who want to learn other languages or have learned other languages or whatever. Like, you can't stereotype like that. You can't generalize this much. And I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes when I'm talking to my friends in conversation, sometimes I generalize, I stereotype. Because I've traveled to several different countries, and sometimes I'll talk about my experiences and I'll be like, yeah, the people there, they tend to be more like this. And yeah, I'm guilty of it too. But it's one thing to like just kind of talk about it with your friends based on your personal experiences, going to these countries or talking to people or whatever. And it's another thing to post videos on the internet and try to make it look worse than it is or amplify it. And when I'm talking to my friends, I always say like, I'm generalizing, like it's not everybody, but in my experience, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I've seen stereotypes in comments on my videos. I mean, I've been doing this YouTube thing for a couple years now. And I mean, I remember getting a few comments of people saying like, wow, you're a gringa, but you're not serious. You're actually like fun or funny or like not serious. And I just thought that was the most absurd stereotype I've ever heard in my life because yeah, the goofiest, silliest people I've ever met in my life were gringos. And I've met so many incredibly serious Latinos. So it's you need to judge people individually and stop stereotyping things like personalities and intelligence and knowledge. And yeah, I don't know. Stereotypes are just annoying me. And I challenge you, and I challenge myself. And I think we all need to, I challenge the world to try to become more aware of how you're kind of just accepting certain stereotypes, and to kind of start letting go of them and stop taking the stereotypes seriously. Like, stop believing them, and reminding yourself that you can't generalize millions and millions of people. And I know some people use it very lightheartedly, and, just because they use a stereotype or they say it doesn't mean that they take it like this is law, this is truth. But I don't know. I think it's just, I'm just tired of like reading it and seeing it and hearing about it and watching these videos. And I don't know. I just kind of want us to do better. I'm challenging us to kind of let go of some of these stereotypes, and just, because you don't know. You don't know. You can find all different kinds of people anywhere. Trust me. I've met a lot of people in my life, talked to a lot of people, I've done a lot of traveling. Yeah. But anyways, the last thing I want to talk about is monolingualism. Monolingualism is just knowing one language. English speakers get a lot of crap for being monolingual. And personally, as a person who's working on my third language right now, I'm working on being trilingual, somebody who is passionate about learning languages and has been since I was a kid. Since I was a kid, I knew that someday I will be fluent in Spanish at least. And I also liked the idea of being trilingual. And I have very specific memories of being a kid and being super passionate about this and desiring it a lot. But I went to school and I had, Spanish class, and I was the only person in my class who was interested. Nobody else really cared. And then now I have been an English teacher for like 7 years now. And I've talked to thousands of students all over the world, and especially here in Latin America. I've had tons and tons of interactions with people learning English in Latin America or from here. And I've come to the conclusion personally that most people in the world, like the majority of people, are not that interested in or passionate about learning other languages besides their native language. Most people in the world, if they only needed their native language to live their whole life successfully, they would just stick with that. Like, most people would rather be monolingual and exert the least amount of effort because it takes a lot of effort to learn another language. It takes a lot of effort and time. It's a huge lifelong commitment, really. It's a lifelong thing. Like, once you start taking on a language, if you want to be able to use that language, it's a lifelong process, and you have to keep using it. So most people would just rather not even have to deal with that. Most people learn another language out of necessity because of how it will help them in their life, because they want to travel and it's useful for travel, because they need it for work, for making money, because they want to move to another country where they think they'll have better opportunities or whatever, or they get in a relationship with someone and they want to be able to talk to them in their native language, whatever it is. But usually it's about life opportunities, it's about jobs, making money, and that's like what it's about primarily. So it's not that people in other countries, they just have this strong understanding of the importance of learning another language, or they're passionate about it, whatever. It's that there's a necessity. And so when English speakers live in an English speaking bubble and they don't have a necessity to learn another language, it shouldn't be surprising that they don't. If you take a random average Mexican, if they had total life success in a complete Spanish bubble, and there was never a necessity to learn any other language, they would probably be fine with that, and they probably would stay in that. Unless they're someone who's super interested in or passionate about learning another language for other reasons, like me. I've always been passionate about it personally, just because I love making new sounds. I love the idea of speaking a different language, making different sounds with my mouth, listening to somebody speaking in a different way, making different sounds and understanding them. I've always been obsessed with the concept of having multiple and knowing multiple languages in my head and using multiple languages. And I just, the whole concept of it has always been so fascinating to me. It's always seemed like such a cool thing. And yeah, I wanted to be able to talk to more people and stuff, but it was never because of a job or money or anything like that, or because of necessity, really. It was because I wanted to. I mean, I could have learned the basic Spanish that I needed out of necessity to be able to travel in Hispanic America. You know, you don't need that much to just travel. And there are people who know English. You could find people to talk to in English, whatever. And plenty of foreigners do that. That was not enough for me. I wanted to master the language for my own sake. Like, even if I'm just talking to myself, I thought it was cool. So yeah, I think that if you are generally super passionate about language learning and you would do it, and you are doing it completely because you want to, because you're passionate about it and not out of necessity, like if you honestly think that you would spend all this time on English if it weren't the lingua franca, like if it weren't the standard, you know, most used like global language or whatever, if it weren't, would you still be learning it? That tells you what you need to know about it. That tells you whether you would have learned it in an alternate universe where the main language is something else. Yes, I do think the fact that Spanish is way more common than, let's say, Italian or even Portuguese, there are more speakers. Yes, that probably had a big impact in me choosing to focus on Spanish. So even though it wasn't necessity, it still was more useful. Like, Spanish is more useful than Italian in this world. So yes, that is a factor. But yeah, I'll never forget when I was a kid and someone in my family asked me what I want to be when I grow up, or what I want to do, what I want to study, what I want to do for a job or whatever. And I just said, I don't know. All I know is that I want to learn Spanish. And they didn't really see that as useful or really know what I could do with that or whatever. And so they were just like, okay, and then what? You're going to learn Spanish and then what? You're going to work at McDonald's? And yeah, that was very wrong for them to say that, but whatever, they didn't know any better. I don't even think we should be asking kids this question. I think we should be letting them enjoy their life now, but it's a better question to ask, like, what are you passionate about now? But anyways, the point is that I didn't know what the heck I would do in my life and where I would end up and what would be, you know, the result of it. But I knew from a young age that I wanted to learn Spanish, and I didn't care about like how useful it would be really for making money. I just wanted to learn Spanish. I just thought it was so cool. All right. So yeah, bottom line is, if you're the type of person who would probably be a monolingual if you didn't have necessity, if you didn't have any need or necessity to learn another language, you would probably be monolingual. Then you can't hate on other monolinguals, okay? And if you're like me and you're passionate about learning languages, well, you also shouldn't really hate on them because you're passionate about this. They're not, you know? I'm sure you can imagine things that you're not passionate about, that they're passionate about, that you don't know anything about. So as somebody who has learned other languages, I think it's an incredible, amazing, life-changing, mind-opening, expanding, beautiful, incredible experience to learn another language and to communicate with people in the other language. I think it's amazing. But somebody else could say that about learning a bunch of musical instruments that I don't know how to play. You know, like, you could say that about anything that you're passionate about, that you have taken the time to learn and other people haven't. So you just have to kind of accept that everybody has different callings, different passions. I just want to get on here and talk about those things that I wrote down. And it's just the topic of the day in this podcast episode. Let me know in the comments, what kind of video styles, video lengths you prefer. And I appreciate you if you made it to the end. You guys are my favorites. Don't tell the others, or tell them. I don't care. I don't keep secrets. Go tell the others. Go tell the others that you are the best. You are the best viewers, the best students. You are the most dedicated. And you are the true fans, the OG fans. The rest of them suck. Don't tell them that part. But anyway, love ya. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.